Right, thank you guys for coming on. This is class number 5, and we're going to be talking about viruses today. I'm looking really carrot colored because I sat in the sun for 2 days, like staring underneath the sun without sunblock and a meditation retreat. So I've just gotten back from that and I'm still processing things that came up. And I just wanted to share with you a vision and a message that came up really deep for me on this retreat. And I had done like 5 days of fasting and hardly there was a lot going on. I was with a South American shaman. So as I was sitting in meditation, the word like no, like I have to learn how to say no a lot better. And that I didn't learn how to say no to my mom. And my mom, gave me things that I didn't want. And I was a people pleaser. My mom was a people pleaser. So that's her culture. It's not even something personal with my mom, but she's from the Asian culture where you don't say no, it's rude. And I didn't learn how to say no. So kind of like just this word no came up and I was just like, no, no. And I just like brought no through every cell of my body. And then I was in this meadow sitting. It was this beautiful meadow up high altitude. There's Mount Shasta in the distance, conifers and aspen trees. And like, there's a brook, like all running all around us. So all you hear are like birds and water. And I like became the earth and I saw the toxicity kind of coming into earth. And I just said, no. I was like, we have to stop this. Like, this is too much. Like, all the toxins, all the vaccines, all the petrochemicals, everything that's just being dumped. Like, every woman in this country, and like all of me connected to all of the women that I know, this group and beyond. And I just said a really righteous no. I was like, stop. Like, this is too much. What is happening is too much. And women were just taking it, and like the earth is just taking it. And these kids are just taking it. And our society, like, the thing about that no, when I felt it and I said it, it came from this place of like, hey, I have the free will to choose. I can always choose. We do so many things because it's expected of us and because we don't want to upset people or it's societal. And we aren't taught how to say no. And and so I just really wanted our as women, as a culture, for us to start saying no more strongly to the things that aren't in alignment with our bodies, our cleanliness, the plan that nature's design for who we are. So, and that really requires coming into an alignment with your strength and truth, inner alignment, because you have to make that choice every day when you go out into the world, when you're at the grocery store, you're at the doctor's office. You have to come into such deep alignment with your guidance that tells you what you should do and what you can't do, because there's so many conflicting signals. So this meditation retreat was really about that, was coming into like super deep alignment with my no, and sharing that on some energetic level with everybody. So talking about viruses, so that was kind of like, this retreat was a place for me to let go of the old and bring in and refresh and bring in the new. And fasting does that, intermittent fasting, dreaming, sleeping, vacationing, stopping, really lets us like shed the old and come back into our center. Because when we keep going, it's like keeping your computer turned on with the internet all the time and then having like, viral software being downloaded constantly and not turning your computer off so that it can kind of reboot. Like, we all need to reboot. And so that's the theme of the viruses. So let me share the notes with you. Okay. Any questions or thoughts on that? All right, so viruses are just basically snippets of information. Like it's information that has no membrane. It sneaks right into our cells and it wants to change our own DNA in a destructive way so that it serves its purpose, right? So it's like a virus, say a flu virus, and it has this information of, it's basically connected a lot often to fear. The flu virus is, we're going to crash as a society. Everyone's going to get the flu, and this is coming from Asia, or this is swine flu. Um, and that fear kind of allows the gateway for this information to come in, and our body can take a while to kind of figure out, like, what is this? And that's when there's a kind of a latent period where it starts to take over. And then when the body's immune system recognizes and reacts and pushes out, that is when we have our clean out. And we need regular clean outs. Like our body regularly needs to have infections. And the fact that we are trying to vaccinate for viral infections is crazy. It's like saying, like, oh, you don't want a house cleaner. Okay, well then let's just like, instead of doing a house cleaner, we're just gonna take all those infections and shove them in the closet even deeper. We're gonna like actually take all of your junk and all of your stuff that you need to clear out and shove it down your like sewage lines until they get clogged up. It's like, no, our body needs regular house cleaning, and that's why, like, it helps actually to get sick. I usually, like, you can fend off a viral infection with a remedy, but sometimes it serves a purpose. So last weekend I had the stomach flu, and I had taken a nosode for like an influenza. It was a Haemophilus influenza nosode because I had tested for it the week before, and I was doing good. And then I exhausted myself, right? I overworked, and I came home and my defenses were down and the infection just took over. But I feel I allowed for that. I wasn't eating well. I exhausted myself, and that infection needed to slow me down, get me to like lay down and sleep and work its way through my system so that I did cleaning. I did like a self cleaning. I had diarrhea, I had vomiting, like it's a clear out, right? So we need to get sick, clearly. What's happening, with like the flu? Like, why are people so crazy about flu shots? Where is this flu shot stuff coming from? You know, yeah, how many of you have seen your kids get an infection and then afterwards have like an improvement, like in their cognitive, or clear out, or have some sort of mucus or cold symptoms, and then afterwards have this, like, all of a sudden their math skills improve, or all of a sudden their language is clearer? This is typical for that to happen when the viruses come in. And I believe, like, the common viruses that kids are supposed to get as they're growing up and developing are meant to be a way of training our system of like learning discernment, learning this is what's not me, this is not me, this is a maybe comes with me a little bit. And it seems to, as we fight off those infections, we develop more connections in the body, and maybe our brain develops more connections. So for special needs kids who like don't have the opportunity, their bodies are so suppressed that they can't fight off those infections. They can't develop their immunity. They can't develop the language acquisition that comes from fighting off viruses. I believe viruses play a major role in our cognitive development. So Ashley said post fever is huge gains. I get pro disease as if that's a bad thing. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there are definitely ways to even trigger, I think a lot of the cancer treatments right now are like triggering your immunity, like tricking your immunity, trying to get it to fight off an infection. And we need to, like, our immunity is something that is always finding its balance. We need inflammation. Like, inflammation is always this bad thing. Old age and oxidation, everything bad is from inflammation. But if we didn't have inflammation, if we cut ourselves, we would die. If you cut yourself, you would just bleed out, right? So we need inflammation. Everything, our body's natural response mechanism is an inflammatory mechanism. In a lot of kids where inflammation is chronic or becomes chronic, it's because there's too many things and too many infections going on. But we don't want to give so much steroids to reduce inflammation to kill off our whole immune response. So here's a list of viral infections that correspond with different nosodes that exist. There's the HIV nosode, there's Coxsackie, and we'll talk a little bit more about these, but this is just a list. There are more. I probably should update this list because there are, I think, more remedies in our dispensary at this point. Okay. Yeah, what's your general opinion on Valtrex? Like, I've often had, or antivirals. So it's clear that a lot of autistic kids or special needs kids have issues with viral infections. It shows up on labs. That's just the deal. What's going on with giving Valtrex? What do we do to the body when they get Valtrex? Do they get better? Like, are they actually healing? Or with, what's another one? Are there other antivirals that anybody knows off the top of their head? And for some people who have like chronic herpes infections, they're taking antivirals nonstop. And, to some degree, maybe they feel that it helps them with their chronic anxiety or their spinning thoughts. Did not work here, made us worse after a while. Acyclovir, that's right. Every case that I've encountered that the child has gotten Valtrex for antivirals have gotten worse afterwards. They work and then made worse, right? Because it's not healing the body of the infection at all. It's putting a blanket over it and saying, let's just hope this can stay put. The body has to respond to viral infections. We have to see that there's a problematic piece of information that is not mine. This is not me. This does not identify as mine, and respond to it and push it out through a cleanse, or else it just stays there. And a lot of viral infections are permanent in the body. They loop themselves into your DNA or RNA, and they're just there for the rest of your life. So they're tricky. Okay. Yeah, also Tylenol. All of these infection medications to kind of keep the symptoms of a cold or a flu down are really just kind of keeping that virus in or developing it into it, putting it in a deeper place and keeping it chronic. So homeopathy, I have this list of nosodes. It's so bent up and used that it's like tattered, and I put plastic on it. But it's got bacteria, viruses, parasites, vaccines, fungal remedies on it. And I use this all the time in my practice. viruses respond so well to homeopathy. There is no reason, homeopathy and natural medicine, there is no reason that we should use anything other than natural medicine for viral infections. Bacteria also respond really well. Like our body, these are tiny little things. Our body should be able to kind of figure them out. Oh, sorry, it's mine. I made it a long time ago, and I don't know where my file of this is. I could try and remake it, or I can scan it and send it out. It's scarily tattered. This was something I made for the Book of Life, and then this got expanded, and then I think the old file got deleted. Maybe. We'll see. I'll see if I can find it. Parasites are tricky. Parasites are these larger, intelligent creatures, you know? They're like, they have this like otherworldly or some sort of intelligence connected to something else, or there'll be a worm, and your body has a hard time with parasite infections. But viral infections, our body should be able to figure them out. Homeopathy, okay, scan and send, please, or I'll find it and send it. Homeopathy has such amazing statistics. So epidemics. So viruses are known for epidemics. So Zika, leptos, all sorts. There's bacterial epidemics too, but viruses are known for being epidemic. Even AIDS, is like an epidemic. People are so scared of, the flu or the chicken pox, all of these viral infections. And, there are instances where homeopathy has been used, when homeopathy was really popular, where the statistics are out of control better for homeopathy. So in 1918, it was right before the First World War. There was something called the Spanish flu. 30% of people who got sick with it, who fell ill, succumbed despite regular treatment. Okay. So 30% of people died from it, who were just getting regular treatment from the Spanish flu. So if you went to a regular hospital and you had the flu, there's 1 out of 3 chance you were going to die. Whereas those who went to the homeopathic hospital, 1% died. And this is all written down, okay? What's really cool is if you have a Spanish flu, like a flu epidemic, oftentimes if that infection is strong enough, it produces a very, a particular symptom set. Like everybody gets this set of symptoms. And so that set of symptoms has a remedy picture associated with it. So like my stomach flu, it was like kind of like a gushing diarrhea. And if anybody around got that stomach flu, we would all need the same remedy, so podophyllum. So when there's an epidemic and it has the same symptoms, you don't have to go through all the mind-numbing, figuring out everybody's unique remedy. You can actually just, everybody take the same remedy. And in fact, you can actually give the remedy even before prophylactically people get sick. So, and this has been done before with even animals. There was a cattle plague in the late 1900s in Holland. 75 to 85% of the cattle died. And then with the treatment of homeopathy, 10% of the cattle died, right? So it's not just like a human thing. A lot of people are like, oh, homeopathy works because it also works on animals, and it's true. It also works on plants. There's people who use it in their gardening. So, okay, Jamie, you can correct and clear the PDF. You guys are very cooperative. So that's an epidemic, infection, an acute infection. You get fever and runny nose, and you get achy, and you want to be left alone. And, you can either be like a healthy person and just respond to it and have the symptoms and kick it out, or you don't resonate with it. Like literally the infection is this fear. Say the infection is all of this fear that I'm gonna die. And you're this person who's just like, I'm never gonna die. Like, I am so like really confident, full of love, very vibrant, and that infection just passes right through you. It just doesn't even hit resonance, and the immunity is so strong there. So, but most of us have fears and anxieties, and you'll see people with viral infections tend to be a little, like chronic viral infections tend to be neurotic and hypochondriacal and like nervous and anxious people, you know, and in a way that feeds on itself. It's like the fear feeds on the capacity for the body to keep getting sick. But then the fear is there because the body keeps getting sick. So it's like a chicken or an egg thing. So, yeah. You know, by the way, if there is ever a epidemic viral infection out there, go online and see if there's a homeopath who found what's called the genus epidemicus. I can type it in. It's spelled Genus epidemicus for 2020 flu. So, for example, Paul Herskew, who's the homeopath that I studied with, he's really all about finding like the genus epidemicus for every yearly flu, because he just loves being that homeopath that like finds those right remedies and saves like hundreds of people. Yeah, he's great. And we worked for him for a little bit. We even made like, Ryan and I, we made this like flu website for like the annual genus epidemicus, and I think he still uses it. So, yeah, so that's something you can do, and we'll talk about other ways of preventing as well. So acute treatment, you know, sometimes, like I talked about in like the first or the second class, say your body's state is, you know, is this piece of paper, and the infection comes in, and the infection can either just kind of ease its way and just stress you out like this, or it can totally like replace your own state and you become like a different state altogether. And so when you become a different state, like you're not yourself, then you need various acute remedies. You've been like bounced out of your normal state, and you need like, you know, chicken pox is good with mercurius or rust tox. Meningitis is helped by belladonna and apis. Pneumonia is helped by phosphorus. Rotavirus is podophyllum, which is what I took for the stomach flu. So your basic homeopathy books are so good for that. For chronic treatment, also, so a lot of what I saw or I've seen in my practice are kids and adults with long-term chronic flu infections or viral infections that keep them bedbound and keep them just kind of weak and achy and don't want to leave the house, and, you know, very kind of, what is the word, agoraphobic, where you don't want to like be out in public, and hypochondriacal and using a lot of sanitizers, and, you know, because the body just feels like it doesn't have good boundaries. It could be somebody with, you know, CVID or like low immune functioning. So arsenicum, bryonia, eupatorium, gelsemium, nux. There's so many amazing remedies. These are remedies that would be good to like learn the keynotes of at some point, because sometimes somebody will just, like at my retreat, somebody came down with the cold, and she's just like, I feel so achy and weak, like in my bones. And I was like, I brought my homeopathy kit. It was so awesome because there were 20 people there, and stuff came up for people, and I was just doling out remedies. And so anyways, I didn't have any books, but I just had my kit, and she's just like, I feel tired and weak and achy. And I gave her eupatorium, you know, and then somebody got sunburned like me, but it was like burning, like hot scalding burning. And I gave her campharis because that was a keynote. And then there was somebody with like sunburn too, and her eyes were puffed out, like the lids were just like puffed out. It was apis, puffy. So it's good to learn some of those keynotes, and to go through and just like it can take time, but you know, a good materia medica, like Desktop Guide by Roger Morrison, and just like reading through some of the major pictures of the well-known remedies in here, and like it's kind of like learning the actors in life, their archetypes, and then when you see them, like, yes, I know this, I know this, I know this pattern. So, the most common, probably two remedies that I give for chronic viral infection are Thuya and carcinosin. Thuya has the feeling, actually, I gave that this weekend. There was a child at the retreat with this massive swollen gland, and she just was so fragile and trying to be strong. And oh my gosh, my heart went out to her, and I gave her Thuya, and it brought it down. So Thuya has the feeling that my system internally is fragile and weak, and who I am at my core is not very strong, and so I have to put up a front. I have to be strong. I have to, like, you know, Thuya is this conifer tree. I have to be like big, tall, strong, and even rigid, like tough, rigid, and you know, this is why what Thuya does when you give it is it puts you in touch with your inner strength. It helps you, instead of feeling weak and fragile on the inside and unable to kind of deal with the world and its infections, it puts you in touch with your inner strength so that you can push the infections out. It's a way of like, kind of like clearing all the viral. And like I said, it's a good social media remedy, and clearing and kind of like pushing it out, and helping that person be more in touch with their true self. Because when, in fact, a lot of infections come in, people lose sense of who they are. You know, the infection is information, and it's information that you've allowed in to kind of confuse your sense of self, your self-identity. Every cell in our body, every one of our own cells, has an identity tag that says Angie or Heather or Jen. You know, it's our cell. And everything that's coming from the outside does not have that identity marker, but our body can say, oh, I don't know, it's okay, you can be in here. Poor boundaries, right? And so giving Thuya helps our body kind of get aligned with its vital force and find your true self and push that energy out and become more connected with your true self. Carcinosin is the most common remedy, probably sold in the dispensary, and it is very much about letting other things take over. And I could teach like 5 hours on carcinosin, but in a small snapshot, it's really about letting kind of small bits of yourself become codependent on other people, other medications, situations, getting too comfortable, needing too many things, and losing sense of self. Like, a lot of it comes from this sense of like anxiety inside and this desire for being taken care of, and this oversensitivity, and carcinosin allows too much to happen to them, too many infections, and they're juggling too many things at the same time because they're trying to please everybody around them. And taking carcinosin puts you back in touch with your true self, which might have some repressed rage or repressed grief or all these repressed emotions, and to release that repression and just kind of, you know, express it. And so it might come out as anger, it might come out as like tears or a lot of emotions. Often carcinosin to give to kind of chronically infected kids is just the most amazing thing, because then the kid will hold back all these tears where it was like, Mommy, but I missed you. I was holding it all together and you left and I missed you. And they say something that you hadn't heard before. You know, they had like a major release. So, and I'm sure this has happened to some of you who've given carcinosin. It's like all of those things that have been held onto, that have been suppressing the immune system because they haven't been expressed, get expressed. Anybody see this in their kids? Okay. So carcinosin, thuya, and then some of like the top, I mean, I listed here some of the top: arsenicum, bryonia, ute perf, gelsemium, nux, rust tox. Really key for just basic flu symptoms of like, you know, bryonia is like, leave me alone, and eupatorium is achy, and gelsemium is woozy, and people with chronic CVID or chronic immunodeficiency, these will be their constitutional remedies, right? So, you know, I've seen a lot of girls who there's like a kind of a cancer-y picture in the family. Mom had breast cancer, uterine cancer, there's a history of cancer. There's a history of kind of weak immunity and people pleasing and sensitivity and lots of resentment. And the child is just to the max, you know, and the constitutional remedy that she needs is like gelsemium, you know, or aconite. I should put aconite here, actually. So consider that too if you're ever seeing kids with just, they're just chronically fatigued and achy. Just look at the flu remedies, look at the flu remedy differentials, and just start treating them as if they had the flu. So, okay. So nosodes for chronic treatment can be useful when lab tests show, you know, like lab tests are useful to the modern homeopath, I think. For miasmatic, so it's transferred from mom to child. Nosodes for suppression, we've kind of talked about this. Nosodes from vaccine injury, a weak and depleted immune system, worse ever since a certain infection. Yeah, a lot of people get mono and they never get better, you know, and giving the mono nosode is like a lifesaver. This is such easy medicine in a way. You're like, wait, you got worse and never better since you got mono. Let's give you the mono remedy, and you could change someone's life, you know. So, yeah. I just threw this in there. Do I use more mono or EBV? That's a good question. I have to double check on the source of those because I kind of feel Helios produces a nosode called glandular fever, and that's what I would use, and that I would use that for mono, and that was a swab from the actual glands of somebody with mono, whereas EBV is taken from the actual like viral petri dish viral isolated virus itself. For chronic infection, is there a time limit that you could give the mono nosode like 10 years later? You know, you'd kind of want to think, well, is this person still suffering from the symptoms? Because is it possible that the symptoms have just gotten deeper, or maybe they cleared and you didn't know it? It's hard to say. I mean, for people who don't have strong immunity and you're not seeing kind of fever responses, it's pretty easy for them to kind of collect stuff. And I really feel that we need to figure out a way to really detox the information overload in our bodies. So this is kind of why I put some of these treatments. I mean, just doing like sweating and saunaing and doing hyperthermia to kind of, when you can raise your body temperature, your normal body temp is like 98. And if you can raise your body temp to 99, it kills off like something like 70% of viral infections, right? There's a huge number, I don't remember, but just raising your body temp just a little bit heals infections. We used to, in the Bastyr Clinic, we used to see AIDS patients, and we would do peat baths. And peat is this like moss, this mud moss from Europe. And it retains heat, and you get it in these huge tubes, and you put it in your bathtub, and you make this like mud bath slurry with hot water, and you go in there and you just sweat. And the mud, like the toxins, just draw all the toxicity out. It's incredible. I actually think, you know, you could, the problem with it is a really messy bathtub, but to have to clean up afterwards. But as a treatment, it is the treatment of the earth. So yeah, these AIDS patients, we would like raise their body temperature, and they would just come back to life. You know, andrographis, the herb, it actually raises your resting, like if your basal body temperature is lower than it should be, andrographis in studies raises your basal body temperature. So we want, you know, a lot of people too with chronic infections, they have a lower than normal basal body temperature. And so that's an interesting thing to check too, is what is your kid's just general average temperature? Because if it's a little bit lower than 98, it could be why viral infections come a little bit easier. Is that andrographis? Yes. Yes, the sauna. I love my sauna. It's the best thing across the board for our family. Yeah, absolutely. And hyperthermic bath if you don't have a sauna. You can literally just turn the hot water up on your bathtub, and you can pour a really hot tea. And so you go in the bath, you drink your tea, or you just put the tea by your bed, go in the bath, and then get out of the bath, wrap up in like wool blankets and tons of blankets, drink the hot tea, put towels around you, and just sweat, and drink water with electrolytes, you know. And it's an incredible way to naturally clear out the viral infections. You know, and clearly like antioxidants, monolaurin, lysine, you know, there's a lot of natural things. Elderberry, you know, I was like giving Eva elderberry every day, the elderberry that I picked, and she still got sick. And she just needed to, you know. I don't remember what I gave her. Well, she got the stomach flu with me, so I don't know, maybe elderberry doesn't help the stomach flu. Bone broth I put in here. Anything else? You guys do the wet socks treatment? Do you guys know the wet socks treatment? So when you have a lot of like fever and the infection is coming on, you take a pair of cotton socks and you wring them out in the water, in like kind of cool water, and wring them out and then put them on your kids' feet. And then you put a pair of warm wool socks over it, and then you put them to bed or have them just kind of rest and bundle them up. And because your feet sense that they're wet, it pulls the heat down and inflammation down and down through the feet, you know. So it's a way of kind of pulling the infection down and out of the body. You kind of want to do that at the beginning of an infection as opposed to like well into it, because if you have a snotty nose and like junked up sinus infection, you'll actually, through that, you'll pull the infection into the lungs. But if it's at the surface, that's a way that you can kind of clear the infection out. Hi, C. Hi, vitamin C. You know what's a big thing in naturopathic school too is like 20,000 to 50,000 IUs of vitamin A day, pulsed, like for like once a day for 10 days, you know, once every 3 months or however often. So vitamin A is incredible, you know, especially if it's like viral infections causing chronic ear infections and, you know, runny noses. Yeah, and you can get those drops, those vitamin A drops where it's like 10,000 IUs in one drop. Biotics sells these like, you know, very concentrated vitamin A liquid. I said 20,000 to 50,000. And the reason that it's supposed to be like limited, you're supposed to stop it, is because if you continuously give vitamin A, it's tough on the liver. all of the vitamin A, D, E, and K, they are all fat soluble. And so they can collect in the body as opposed to water soluble. So the water soluble, like vitamin C, you take vitamin C, you pee it out. But the vitamin A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, so you can overdose on those vitamins. Claire has micellized vitamin A. Yeah. Echinacea, golden seal, those are super bitter, but you know, the bitter medicine is a powerful one, and it helps to really boot out those viral infections. What else? Anybody else do stuff for viral infections? Vitamin D. Vitamin D, I mean, what do you guys think about vitamin D? I kind of feel like everyone went really overboard on it because I personally started vitamin D, and I just thought that, yeah, how much vitamin D do you give? Whole garlic, whole garlic. Ah, Ryan got super sick because he was like doing the house building and it was raining and he was got clogged up in his sinuses. And I took like a whole bulb of garlic and peeled it and just boiled it and put it in the blender and like for 2 days, and he stunk, and it just, it was awesome. 5,000 IUs a day, 6,000 IUs. Yeah, I think vitamin D, kind of maybe between the 1 to 6,000 IUs of vitamin D a day is good, but some of the mega dosing, when you do mega dosing of, you know, I don't know, I think you just have to be careful over time. The vitamin D, Ashley gives 6,000. Even though you're in a super sunny place, Ashley, some people don't get the vitamin D, right, from the sun. I can't hold D either, chronically low. Yeah, why is that? And you guys are both in sunny places. You're both in Florida. So I would be curious, kind of what we've talked about before, to trial out the vitamin B, to trial out the vitamin D and see if you convert D better. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, like why that would be, why our body has kind of flipped, you know, all of these methylation issues and conversion issues with vitamins that we're kind of figuring out now. It's like, why is the body doing that? Is that from chronic viral infection messing with us? Is your body literally, like, because you're in Florida, like stopping the vitamin D to like prevent excess vitamin D from coming in? Yeah, and you're supposed to take some D with K, and that's partly because if you take too much D, you block the K because it's lipid soluble and all of that. So, and I think a lot of D now comes with K. But thinking about that too, you could take a lot of D and a lot of K, and you could block then the vitamin A and the vitamin E. So really, you know. What else? What else did you guys do for viral infections? Herbs, olive leaf, lomatium, yerba santa, hibiscus, roses. Yeah, great, awesome. K and liquid prenatal, yeah. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this picture. This was a picture that a kid drew who had like chronic CVID. And she's like, this is how I feel. I have headaches right here and tension on my shoulder blades, and my eyes are aching. Somebody uses enzyme defense. Yeah. Yeah. She did codes. She wrote bad, bad, bad is this, are these lines, squiggly lines, and then this is main issue. This girl, I started treating her maybe when she was about like 10 or 11. And she had pretty bad CVID, like, you know, so much chronic viral infection. And she needed aconite and gelsemium as her constitutional remedies, and tons of nosodes. We used like pretty much like every nosode in the book plus those remedies. And she did so much better, and she became this like I don't know. When I met her again when she was like 17 and doing amazing, like she had graduated from school, was in college, and she was like this crystalline. It was almost like she was meant to be so clean and pure and sweet and good, and she maintained that. And it's like she be like, you know, that word crystal child, or which I don't like to use, but it came so strongly. I was like, oh my God, this girl's like a crystal child. And she wasn't meant to like have whatever exposures she had. And I think that is true for a lot of the kids, a lot of your kids. They just, there's a purity in them that just doesn't get some of the information coming at them, and they don't know how to figure it out and block it out, you know. And I think in some ways, you know, all of the information coming at us, sometimes we actually integrate it and it informs our way of being, so that we just become that piece of information. And that's literally becoming Democratic, Republican, Trump hater, Trump supporter, all this viral information, which I'd like to talk about with you guys. But it literally informs our behavior like viral information. And then to really clear ourselves, like clear our bodies of this viral information, we need to become like not polarized with any belief systems. I really feel belief systems are very much connected to viral energy as well. Even like Christianity, you know, and all of this stuff, it has a way of kind of coming in and informing your being. And it's just interesting. My homeopathy teacher, a couple of them, Thuya, which is well known for viral infections, is very well known as being the remedy for the preacher. The person who has a weak sense of self, that takes on an identity that informs their behavior, and they're very rigid about it. They're like, no, this is how it is. Or it even can be like, veganism is this, you know, and it can be like that kind of preaching, you know, this angry, like, you can't eat any cheese, it's horrible, you know, and that very rigid, militant energy where you're taking that information, you're preaching it back out, can be really thuya-y. And really, like, let's just all live in peace and allow people to pick and choose and be what they want. There's no right or wrong ways, ever. Okay. All right. So the energy of viruses, and I've kind of touched on this already, but it's so much, you know, when is it that we get sick with the flu? It's in the winter when we're working and our kids are in school and we're not relaxing. And I mean, it's just like a whole snowball of stuff that throws us off balance, right? And then our kids eat Halloween candy, and then it gets cold, you know, and then there's all this media news scares, you know, and then we're just doing too much. Our culture does too much. Yeah, these crystal kids that just can't handle this stuff, and then you connect with them. You're like, their connectivity and who they are is so pure. Like, it's like they're just crystalline pure from the inside, and they're not getting, they're like from another planet, and they're not getting this information coming at them. So anyways, like, all the doing, you know, oh my God, how many times do we have to check our cell phone in the day? I am guilty of this too. I'm not a viral clear person. Typically connecting people who like to connect, they're literally like viruses themselves. Like, they go viral, you know, and they tend to have a lot of viruses. So I know a couple women here in Ashland, and they are really kind of, they've got a lot of what feels like herpes infections down below, but they are so into the Instagram and the Facebook. And I'm like, I know there's a connection in there. Beth, I know you're on here. What connections are there to this viral energy and all this stuff going around? So the super connecting people can like have a lot of viral stuff, but then the super shut down, like cow-eye carbs can be too. the super connecting person can turn into the super shut down person, right? So, you know, and, you know, for example, Ashley, your son, who like is this crystal child, he connects. Like he's actually, his boundaries aren't completely like, you know, I'm gonna like not connect. A lot of kids, why do kids not make eye contact? You know, because they don't want to connect. You know, why are kids in their own world, in their own bubble? Because connecting with the world just opens them up to more infection. You know, to being in that bubble is a safety bubble. You know, it literally, like, they've taken their resonance and pulled it inwards and created this bubble around them. And you know, you know, these kids haven't been able to maybe effectively boot these infections out because they haven't been able to express their immune systems in the way that they need to express. So why are we vaccinating for viruses if our body can fight them off? I mean, I think there's so much fear that we're going to die from the flu, and there is, but old people die from the flu, and maybe babies die from the flu, you know, but if you've got good nutrition, you know, in other countries where there's like more malnutrition, this is more likely when people die from epidemics. There's so much we can do. We don't need to vaccinate for viral infections. So I feel like we as a society, like, what's the deal? I want you guys to tell me what is it that we have gotten so comfortable with our media and our cell phones, and what that is doing to our kids. I do it too. Like, how much can your kid be on a tablet or in front of the computer a day? You know, I've had days where Eva, you know, has had like maybe a week with zero of that, you know. But then we stay busy, and then she crashes. And what does she want to do is watch something, you know? So I don't know. I like am gonna love hate, you know, with as a mom with like cartoons, right? Because cartoons are your best friend, or whatever, these TV shows, because, you know, you sit your kid in front of the TV and get your stuff done. So I think it's become our community. You know, it used to be you sit your kid in front of your tribe of elderly women and they, like, you know, braid their hair. And now it's like, you know, your kid just zones in. How many of you guys have your kids have watched something on YouTube and then you turn it off and your kid's like, wah! Like freaks out, right? Like, what's happening in that moment? I'm curious, like, what do you think is happening? Like, one, they're so focused, but I feel like they're starting to resonate. They're so sensitive with the energy of the people who created that and what that is itself. And like, it's like a shock to the system to try and to like, so I think we have to be so careful. Is screen addiction central? Yeah. I have one that is incredibly addicted. We have to limit it so much. Even a small amount flips the switch on behavior. Yeah. You know, I honestly think other kids and being around other kids is the best solution to excess media. Because when the kids are with other kids and they can play with each other, it's the best. It's a mental drug. It's cutting a fake cord of connectivity and family to a fake online family. Right. Exactly. That's why everybody watches Friends and these sitcoms and The Simpsons. And it's sad, isn't it? I mean, and I think we grew up with it, so we've normalized it. And like, for me, like, I probably watched 5 hours of TV after school, and that was fine. And my mom like came home later and made dinner, and it was just, that was like, that is your babysitter. That's part of your family. I found this data I have this book, which is like Eva, Parenting the Strong-Willed Child. Anyways, it like, whatever. It's not like I don't use
these books, I can't really kind of get a whole like grasp of using them that well, but because they're almost too like, you just do this, prescriptive. But the data in there says that kids spend 2 to 5 years old on average spend 32 hours a week in front of a TV. What is that divided by 7? Like 4 to 5 hours a day in front of a TV in 2010. Like, you know, this is when they are developing their brains and developing everything. 42% of 4 to 6-year-olds have a TV in their bedroom. 29% of 2 to 3-year-olds have a TV in their bedroom. That's why it's called programming. Oh my God. Addiction. I always like hookworm, for which is more parasitic than viral. But yeah, viral is an interesting concept. Yeah, I love that, Beth. I'd love to talk about that for hookworm, because I see that hookworm energy in part of my family, and that TV watching. It hooks you in. But yeah, it's called programming. We're programming our kids. And what are we programming them with? Like, by the age of 18, an average child has seen 200,000 acts of violence and 16,000 murders. You know, I think it was one of you was like, I was like, God, there's all of this like dark energy that's like stramonium in your family. And then all of a sudden we were like, oh, the TV shows you're watching are all about the theme of stramonium. You know, it's like, well, maybe if the interest wasn't in like demons and zombies, like the child won't be acting like a demon and zombie. Seriously, you know, and you know, it's hard. I choose. I mean, the things that what do you let your kids watch? Because I let Eva watch. Well, she watches babies. She loves to watch babies. What else does she watch? She watches like math cartoons. But it's so hard. I mean, even all of these like little jingles, like ding 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 ding, like all these things, like come into her brain and infect her brain. So even just the jingle is like an infection. How many of you like know the full theme song to like Friends or a sitcom, but can't like sing like a Beatles song? Right? Like, or we know all these commercials, and it's just like crazy. Kids spend an average of 48 minutes a day on a mobile device that's like microwaving their hand, wrist, and brain like this. Like, it's just not good. And now, you know, it's just every cell phone and everything is just getting more and more radiating. Somebody was telling me today that girls are getting like basically infertile from holding laptops constantly, or like devices on their laps, and it's like literally like microwaving their ovaries. So yeah. Old Disney CDs from the 1960s and 70s. Oh, that's what she watched. Old Disney CDs. I put on Mr. Rogers. Thank goodness this guy like came from heaven and created this calm programming for children, you know. So there is good stuff out there, you know. Eva watches Tumbleleaf and these like really cute. There's some sweet shows. So it almost feels like the intention of the people. Like if you have someone really good and the intention is good and it's like a good show, it doesn't feel like bad, right? We were almost entirely TV free, and then Pans hit, and there was nothing else my child wanted to do. She's better now, and her newfound passion is for piano. Whoa, that's awesome. But still, it makes me sad that TV took over. You know, I think TV is also like this escape drug. It's like an opiate, right? And so it's like it's our natural kind of way of getting away from the world as well. And we're sick and we're on in front of the TV and we want to zone out. And there's something about that, you know, it's like, you know, there's a part of you that's kind of like shut down already when you're like watching, and then you like, and so I guess there's probably some difference in the state that we're in. My husband is so contained and kind of shut down. He can watch anything and it doesn't seem to impact him, but my hypersensitive, emotional child can watch 5 minutes of a Disney movie and she's flipping out because it's too emotional for her. So, Jacob, now 18, never wanted to watch TV, YouTube, or DVDs, or devices, or computers. He just refuses. I think it's from the visual sensitivity and his sensitivity to EMF. Awesome. Well, that's good. He kind of, on some level, recognizes that. And he wants to be in nature. So, all right. Yeah. All right. Overdoing, go, go, go. Burnout, taking in too much information. My body is wound up, scattered, disorganized. So I went on this meditation retreat, and right before it, my computer was like, you need to clear out some old files. And I was like, sweet, that's probably totally what I need to do to my brain. And I really believe that if you look at somebody's personal laptop, it will tell you so much about how they store and deal with information inside of them. If you have a person's laptop and they've got like the whole screen is covered with icons, you're like, this person cannot detox viruses or detox information. So, you know, we really need to, like, our computer is such a perfect example of how we bring in information we need to clear out. We have that trash bin, and we need to manage the information that we have coming in and have going out of us. What about chronic EBV people? I do not see this picture for EBV people, right? Well, the kind of exhausted, so it's kind of, there's a polarity, right? So the symptoms can be kind of like amped. So boisterous, talkative, out there, wound up, like hyperlexic, like disorganized, ADHD, too neurotic, stimming. I think so much of this stimming and the scripting feels so related to the media and the information. It's literally like these kids are a device themselves. They don't have the immunity to the information coming in, and the nee or whatever stimming they're doing is like, it's the information of that media kind of like coming right back out, or being kind of expressed in a different way. So the alternate of that kind of neurologic is this like flat, apathetic. It's like your nerves are either super amped from the intensity of the infection, or if the infection runs its course for too long, it literally burns out your wiring, and then you become flat and apathetic and depressed and exhausted and leave me alone and I'm foggy, right? So those are the kind of like the two polarities. Yeah. Physical symptoms of viruses, you guys know, ulcers, sneezing, wound up. You know, when we have good sleep, that's a really good time that our body processes. We dream, we produce, you know, growth hormone, and that heals our body. And a lot of people with chronic viral infections, when the viral infection is coming in, you've got a bad night of sleep. Like the wound upness, it's like all of a sudden that viral infection's coming in and it's like, woo, 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 and you're like, woo! And you need to take influenza, you know? So, because your body's wanting, you know, that's the moment when you're starting to feel this, like you've been doing too much, you're starting to feel wound up, you're starting to get achy, you can't sleep. Do the immune support. Take a bunch of ACEs plus zinc and elderberry and influenza. And in your kids, you'll see it. You know, all of a sudden they've got a meltdown, or they're tired, or they've got all of these various types of sensations. Tics are, you know, tics can be from any type of stress to the system, but can be viral. Any other? Okay. All right. So let's just talk about some key viral remedies, and then in the end of class, I'm going to do a group healing with that. Okay, so influenzanim. So like I said, you know, as soon as you get like wound up and feel like you're about to get that viral infection, this is a really good remedy to take. There are other good remedies. Aconite is a really good one as soon as a cold comes on to give. I made that like viral defense formula, and it has like aconite and nexvanca and influenzanim all in it together, you know, and that can be helpful. So influenzanim, you guys know oscillococcinum. It's like, have you heard of it? It's, you know, sold at Whole Foods, and it's used for flu prevention. What it actually is, do you guys know what it actually is? So it is duck liver. It's duck liver and duck heart. It's homeopathic duck liver and duck heart. Legally, you use it all the time. Yeah, like, you know, homeopathic pharmacies aren't really supposed to sell Nosodes to the public. You know, influenzanim is out there. It's not like that. It's not like it's regulated that much, but this is literally a homeopathic of the duck, and the duck carries so much flu, you know, and so it has, they have, the ducks are known for carrying flu, you know, across, you know, migratory pathways. So it sells $15 million a year in the US and in Europe. I kind of use them interchangeably. Beth, I don't know if you kind of use them differently or anybody does. A lot of people just get this at Whole Foods and use it right at the beginning. And it will either, you have to use it right at the beginning so that your body has time to kind of respond to it right away, as opposed, it's like a way of saying no right at the beginning, as opposed to letting it kind of eke its way in, and then it starts to create the physical effects, and it won't help you once it's starting to kind of really become integrated into your body. Then you're going to need maybe the constitutional, or once it kind of pushes your body off in the wrong direction, an acute remedy. So flu dosing protocol. So there's actually a study, clinical study on the use of influenzanim. In 1998, the French Society of Homeopathy surveyed 23 doctors using influenzanim over 10 years. And it was for 453 patients. In 90% of the cases, no flu occurred when influenzanim was given preventatively. So basically, and then no side effects in 97% of the cases. Okay, so you can actually give influenzanim 200C like once a week or once every 2 weeks through the flu season to prevent the flu. And it's commonly done in France and in Europe. It's not commonly done in the US, but I'm telling you right now, if your kids are really flu prone, and you are too, you can do this instead of getting vaccinated. And just see this winter, this time around, you know, if you give influenzanim, I would say, I think 200C, I think I put 30C here. But if you're using it preventatively, I would give it in 200C. I don't think I put it in here. Yeah. You can also say the flu is coming on. You can dissolve it in some water and then take it, like a drop of it every hour, every 20 minutes, just to try and help clear it out. But like I say, the flu serves a purpose of kind of clearing our bodies out. And the goal of homeopathy too is, it's not necessarily to say no to the infection, but it's to allow the infection to run its course with less suffering and misery, right? And so you might get the flu, but you're not going to get it for like, you know, 8 days. You'll get it for like 3 days with the use of homeopathy. It will just foreshorten it. So a lot of kids chronically, like influenzanim or the flu vaccine remedy, if flu vaccines have been given, but influenzanim can be like a really key intercurrent remedy in clearing up chronic cases of
autism or pandas or Lyme or anything chronic. Um, you just have to recognize what the flu picture looks like in that kid. Um, so, a really common example will be like, I treated a kid for pandas and I gave like, constitutional remedy and then strep. And then all of a sudden the kid starts coming down with a cold, like typical cold symptoms. And he's never had like much cold symptoms before. And there's a detox, but there's also this viral energy that's kind of coming up. And then I'm like, okay, well, just take a dose of influenzanim too. Influenzanim is one of those remedies everybody should have a vial of. So here's a case where this was an 8-year-old boy with autism and seizures, and he, at 2 years old, got a flu shot. Right after the flu shot, his sleep degraded, and then he started to have seizure jerks and lost attention span. And then he was completely lost after that. After 2, he was delayed, but then his speaking further regressed. I realized he had had another flu shot during the period he was regressing. When this child sees spinning or fast objects, he jumps with excitement. If we sit in front of the train, it comes super excited and shouting. His brain is trying to process the speed. Eyes flickering. So too much going on, I love to jump and move, energy. This picture here, I'd have to say there are some, other than carcinosin and thuya, which are good for the flu, and then these classic flu symptom remedies. Some of these like deeply neurotic remedies too, where there's a viral infection and there's this like high intensity, is to think of the spider remedies too. The spider remedies plus viral energies help bring down like these super kind of highly destructive kids who are kind of virally and touching everything. And what else for those kids? The Book of Life, the belladonna and the stramonium. Anything else? Zinc is really important for clearing out zinc, and there's a lot of varieties of zinc. There's zinc phos and zinc sulf and zinc mur. But one, zinc is supposed to help us with viral infections. But 2, the picture of zinc is when a virus has entered the nerves and kind of stripped the nerves are kind of stripped down. And so there's an oversensitivity of the nerves, and you're firing too fast, and there's a lot of repetition going on and a lot of looping. And so zinc can be like a very important remedy for viral infections. Like you're coming down with a viral infection and this one thought is looping and looping in your brain. It could be that zinc could help with it. Okay, so I gave him influenzanim. It made him sleep. It felt like there were small thunderstorms in his head. He was agitated and looking around a lot, but his episodes are less intense. He's more connected. He's looking at objects, not through objects. He's more alert, but it also made him tired and sleep. He's more present. When I asked him how he felt, he gave me an accurate answer immediately. Can you use your viral defense as a preventative too, or just the influenzanim? Which type of zinc? Oh, okay. So yes, so it's viral defense, it's a preventative, so as soon as it's kind of coming on, clear it. But I will have to think about that, because I kind of thought of viral defense as, right at the first stage of the infection, not to be given like prophylactically, despite whether infection is around like once every 2 weeks. I kind of rather feel like it's more for like at the beginning stages of a potential infection, whereas influenzanim 200C is where the study has been to prevent it. But I think that's what I would do, as I would use just influenzanim, straight plain influenzanim 200C every 2 weeks or once a month for your whole family, and just see if fewer people get the flu this year.
I know some of you have like lots of kids, so maybe you should do this. But if you feel like the flu is coming on and still, and you're like reaching it, then give a dose of the viral defense. Which type of zinc for the looping? So I kind of want to make sure that zinc is the way that Paul Herskew talked about it is it's like a sulfur but more wound up. Hyper, so Morrison says zinc, hyper, overstimulated, oversensitive patients, racing thoughts and abundant ideas, loquacious, irritable and rage, shrieking, superstitious, aggravation from suppressed eruptions, restless twitches, jerks, fasciculations, facial tics, grimaces, right? Strabismus. So this is like, how many kids have this picture? Like a lot. I have it in the Book of Life, but Zincum Met is kind of just the basic, and you could give Zincum Metallicum 30C, if they're that way, but you could try to muscle test and it might be higher potency. Zincum Phos is like that connecting, but you're trying to befriend everybody and everything. You're connecting to too many things. So that phosphorus part of you makes you like will you be my friend? And this is so interesting and da 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 da. And like, you're like, oh, chill out. Zincum Mur is like, this is there's lots going on and I just need to get out of here. Like, this is too much. I'm like overwhelmed. I need to shut down. So there's a combination of shut down plus that. And then Zincum Sulf really helps with like the detox of the nerves, like poor detox of the nervous system. And I feel like I've given that. I think I put Zincum Sulf in the MTHFR formula that I made. So, the lower potencies of that could be worthwhile for a lot of you moms to try out for your kids for nervous system detox. Like you could do like Zincum Sulf 12C twice a week just to kind of try to clear out the nervous system. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Coxsackie. So Coxsackie is really common these days. And I don't remember it being common when I was a kid, but I feel like a lot of kids get it now. And for me, this is the example why in our society, we can try and like get rid of one virus and another virus will come up. There will always be another virus, right? There will always be. And so, we just have to like realize that our body can do it. We don't need it. They're going to come up with a Coxsackie vaccine, I'm sure. The thing so Coxsackie comes up in Panda's Pants cases really high on viral titers. And I give the Coxsackie Nosode. I've seen some good responses from it, but it doesn't have a super strong picture associated with it. Usually with Coxsackie, what I'm seeing is that it just aggravates the constitution of the child, like how they normally are just gets like worsened. So I have an example of this. Okay, so here's an example of a 6-year-old with pandas. He's gotten calcarbognation strep, and then he gets the Coxsackie virus, and he gets cold symptoms, and then he gets the red bumps on his bottom, and then he gets like skin sensitivity and angry and defiant behavior, and that's the picture of China. So I was like, wow, I see the picture of the remedy China so well. I'm just going to give China followed by the Coxsackie. And that made him get better. But this is a good example. So this was 3 siblings in the same home that all got the virus, Coxsackie, and her 13-year-old got Coxsackie, recovered it quickly without intervention. So it's just like some skin picking, facial tics that went away. Like her nervous system was like, boom, Ricky, her 11-year-old, got super irritable, more rigid, more oppositional, targeting other kids. And then her 8-year-old got really sensitive and crying and shamed and embarrassed and shy. And So I just gave different remedies to each kid, it's like constitutional remedies. So recognize that too. Like some infections aren't going to kind of like knock. I mean, Coxsackie is awful. Eva got Coxsackie, and she was a year and a half, I think, just before her. No, she was like a year old. And it was like the mouth sores, the hands. We lived in Seattle. It was kind of cold and rainy, and oh my gosh, it was so sad. She was breastfeeding at the time. It was like painful to breastfeed, um, and Rust Tox. Um, Rust Tox was the main remedy. China was another really important remedy, and I believe those are the two that I use. And arsenicum were what I used for her. So, um, when a infection comes up high on titers, does it mean that the body is having a problem with it, or does it mean that the body is doing a good job of fighting it off? And I'm saying that, curious about your answer. So say you've got high titers for Coxsackie. Does that mean that there's a problem with Coxsackie? Most people think, oh, this is a problem. There's a problem with Coxsackie. When in my like muscle testing and just feeling it out, so oftentimes I feel like, wow, actually, this person is doing a really good job of fighting it off. So just because you get like viral titers drawn and like it shows this like high, response to an infection, that might be that like, wow, the kid actually did what they were supposed to do and got a chance to actually fight off an infection on their own. Thank goodness. All right, so herpes. So herpes is a large group of viral infections. A lot of us all have herpes infections. We all, like, it's like, I don't know, 80% of the population has HSV1, the mouth herpes. So herpes is really interesting because it stays in the body. It actually like comes into our system and stays there forever. It sounds awful. And it becomes latent and can be activated at any point, especially when we're stressed, right? And then people take Valtrex, they get this like big mouth sore and they take Valtrex and it just, it just suppresses it deeper. It's trying to actually come out. And in a way, like we're just kind of suppressing it deeper. So HSV, herpes 1 is cold sores, herpes 2 is genital herpes. Varicella is chickenpox or shingles. I have done the varicella vaccine clear and seen a lot of cognitive and speech gains in some cases where that has become one of the main remedies. And it tells me that a lot of herpes infections disorganize the brain in our speech centers. And clearing it out can really help. One other thing I want to say is that when we are clearing out viruses, it helps to support the liver. Clearly, like we want to do that on all ways, but when the body is all of a sudden like, I've got this load of viruses that I need to process and it's like battling them, it hits the liver and then you get these livery symptoms and you want to do like some sort of liver support. Like you do herbal support or the liver sarcode or something. Cytomegalovirus is, similar to the Epstein-Barr. It causes fatigue, causes enlarged spleen, malaise, sore throats. EBV, you guys know about. I had mentioned this fact in a previous class, but I'll say it again. In the 1940s, the length of an EBV infection lasted 1 week. In the 60s and the 70s, it was 2 to 3 weeks. And now the average time for someone to recover from EBV takes months. So our immunity is going south, or these infections are getting stronger. Not to scare you, we can do it. We can fight these things off. HHV6 is so common. That's roseola.
And it tests positively on a lot of pandas, ASD kids. You can have like average cold and flu and swollen lymph nodes. And I've given the Nosode quite often, but I do feel like it's similar to Coxsackie, where it's kind of like, and if anybody has any like other information on this, please share. But I kind of feel like the body's actually trying to effectively fight off an infection here. And I'm not seeing like huge impacts of giving the Nosode other than maybe sometimes having, ticks go away. Okay, so here's some herpes cases. So a CMV is a case. So this is a 45-year-old woman who 10 months previous to seeing me, her head was super heavy and had vertigo. Her half of her body went numb. She felt like her brain was sloshing around in her head. She felt dizzy and nauseated. And then anxiety came on out of the blue. And a few weeks later, she started taking some natural stuff, but she felt heavy in the head and anxious. Her doctor gave her clonazepam and Klonopam for anxiety. Okay, it's like, oh, you're not sick. You have a mental disease. But despite the medications, her anxiety worsened. She got severe panic and anxiety to the point of debilitation. She said her head hurt even when she touches it. She said her right ear hurts. So this is the picture of like a pretty strong viral infection. This woman was a painter. I kind of felt she just kind of had a lot of toxicity in her body too from her work. Paralyzed, feeling like she can't move. Anyways, I had muscle tested the CMV Nosode. Thank goodness for muscle testing. And 200C once a day, 1M once a day, and then 10M once a day. I just went like, I was like, this lady is super sick. I'm going to just do 200C, 1M, and 10M and just like try and like, barrel this like infection out of her. And it helped. Her blood work got better. Her back pain, fatigue, dizziness, 95% better emotionally. Panic attacks went away, so her body just got hit like a truck with this infection. Same thing can happen with EBV. Here's a 13-year-old boy who's shy and quiet normally, he gets mono and he gets racing thoughts and he wants to start cutting himself. He's been given 10 types of pharmaceuticals, probably because of the mental. It's interesting. The mental component of these viruses are often these intrusive thoughts that are like, you're driving and you're going to fly off the side of the road, or I want to take this knife and stab something. There are these really kind of destructive, intrusive thoughts. And the trick is really recognizing them and saying, that's not mine, gone, be gone, you're not mine. But I've noticed that when Eva is about to like get a viral infection too, sometimes I'll just have this like quick thought of like something violent like falling on her head, and it's like, it's my fear, oh, there's something like, oh my God, she's going to like take a pair of scissors and like stab herself or something. And you're just like, well, where did that come from? It came from this kind of energetic miasm of this viral energy trying to find its way, and like it's like a cloud, and it's like, let me get into you and infect you. And you have to be a wizard and just be like, pow, gone, out. But a lot of like these chronically infected kids, they have these intrusive thoughts, and it's really awful, and they recognize they're not mine. And like I said, with the strep has this like self-attack. And with, I don't know if I wrote this with viruses. With viruses, it just tends to be fear. And Beth, I don't know if you feel like there's anything, just various thoughts, swirling thoughts and anxieties. It's like various just fears. So I gave him a constitutional first. Calc carb did nothing. And then I switched to glandular fever, and the voices went away. Um, the headaches got better. No more racing thoughts, no more cutting. Right? Yeah, that is spidery too. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. Herpes simplex case. So this was somebody who their kid had herpes lesions, and I gave the varicella nosode, and that usually helps right away. But that didn't work. So the varicella is chickenpox. So we did the actual herpes simplex 30C, the HSV1, and the actual usually the herpes blister lasted 3 or 4 days. It actually extended the amount of time. It stayed on his lip for 10 days, having taken the nosode. But he got an improvement in his behavior. He got more into playing games, more into pretend play, more into red light, green light. So it was almost like it was being expressed outward, and then you got that deeper improvement. Maybe we probably all could use the herpes simplex. And varicella, Beth said, generally the varicella clear is, I just don't think we needed to develop a chickenpox vaccine. We're fine getting the chickenpox. So this is, just a quote from a case I recently gave. Varicella, she got the flu-like symptoms, and then sound sensitivity came on and other sensitivity came on, but there's less visual stimming. She doesn't get stuck on that. So vaccininum. So vaccininum is a nosode from cowpox. None of us ever get cowpox, but it is from the original vaccine. We first started to vaccinate ourselves for smallpox. And I just muscle test this remedy a lot. And my feeling about it is that it helps with like the miasm of vaccines. Like it is my like miasmatic vaccine clear remedy. And this may be just hypothetical, but to me it's like saying, we have 3 generations of vaccinated people here. Let's just go to that unidentifiable source of like vaccine injury and viral energy and clear it out with vaccininum. So I really like this remedy. I have found it to be fairly helpful. Its materia medica is listed for low white blood cells, herpes infections, neuralgia, skin infections, malaise, restlessness, tired all over feeling with a need to stretch. And that's a very viral thing too. This like achiness and needing to kind of stretch out the nervous system, pull the nerves and kind of like, try to get it out. Here's a case of a boy with CVID. He took a dose of sulfur, which brought an infection to the surface. His hands were peeling, his eye tics were bad. But in the past week, he completely lost focus. He was nonstop talking. He didn't want to do anything. He got raised bumps on his legs, on his inner thighs that hurt. And then out of nowhere, he started crying, saying his throat hurt, it was burning up, started running a fever. So he started getting basically an acute infection. I gave belladonna 6C every 2 hours and then vaccininum 200C twice a day for 2 days. I didn't know what infection it was that was coming up. I could have sent influenzinum, but I sent vaccininum. So this is kind of similar to influenzinum, actually, in the way that I use it. Yeah, here's another one. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So this girl got, she had pandas, and then she got chicken pox, actual chicken pox, and then she would act confused, not in her body, hitting, throwing, screaming, panicking. And I gave the chicken pox nosode followed by vaccininum. And then it was amazing to see, the mom said. So, oh, she said this was so interesting.
after she got the remedy and she got better, this child had a kind of a bully that she was hanging out with in school who she looked up to, and it was like a bad, unhealthy relationship. And right after this cleared out of her, the bully dropped her and she dropped the bully. Like their relationship just completely like dissipated. And I think that's interesting to think about, is to think about like what kind of friendships do you have, and how do they relate to how you deal with infections and boundaries, and putting things, pushing things out and saying no. Okay. Okay, so Lycinum is and hydrophobinum are the same name as rabies. So these are like all the same thing. So it's the homeopathic rabies. If you read about homeopathic rabies in the Materia Medica, it's a scary picture. I've seen a ton of that in Lyme community. Friendships ending when someone clears an infection. Yeah, it's so interesting. I have felt that way too. Like it's almost like I had this kind of group of friends that were kind of bohemian, and they'd wear these like funky clothes. And when I kind of cleared the tubercular miasm from me, I don't have those friends anymore. But totally, like our friends are, everything everything that you see in front of you and you engage with is a reflection of yourself. So let's just say that. What are you connecting with in the world around you? Who are you connecting with? Why? Does it get you down? Do you need it? Are you codependent on it? Like what is it you're getting from it? Do you really need it? Can you upgrade? I think every once in a while you have a friendship that just goes south and you're like, I need to cut the ties here and upgrade to a better friendship. Or a place, there can be many things like that. That's life. So with Lycinum, it's kind of the Materia Medica is intense, where there's fear of running water and convulsions and seizures, and because it's the remedy of rabies, like brain attack, right? I feel like I'm going crazy. So I have given this remedy to people in the Lyme community, and it's been amazing. Like the super chronic Lyme person who thinks they have Lyme, who doesn't have Lyme at all, but is so like chaotic in their mind and connecting to like 500 million people on Facebook, and like they're kind of crazy, giving them Lycinum. Like I gave it to one person and it was just like everything changed overnight. I have given this to carcinosin type picture moms who are really oversensitive and kind of dependent, but there's so much going on. Like it's more than carcinosin. They truly feel like they're going crazy. And the mom like takes her hair and she's like, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm like, oh my God. I give Lycinum. The other like time I've given Lycinum just based on muscle testing for kind of long-term chronic autism. When you kind of heal autism, but there's still that ADHD, like disorganized brain state, like they're just like all over the place still. And Lysin has helped. Like they don't fit the picture of the fear of the water or the shrieking or anything like that. They're like kind of average kids, but they're just very brain disorganized, and that remedy helped. It actually helped them have more executive functioning. The case that I have here is it's a case of a kid who had Landau-Kleffner, which is a brain attack disease. And he attacked his body and attacked his nails, and it was an intense case. But Lycinum didn't completely heal him, but it stopped the aggression. Would Lycinum help clear a rabies vaccine? Yes, there does exist a rabies vaccine remedy too, but yes, you could give that. I had a rabid raccoon attack my dog when we were really little, and the emergency room gave us rabies boost, like some sort of booster to prevent us from getting rabies. It was awful. Okay. Hep B, I could probably talk about in like the vaccine talk, but I put it in here because
So you have Hep B vaccine clear, or you just have the hepatitis B nosode. It's hard for me to differentiate between those two. It's kind of an etiology thing, but I never have ever seen anybody with, like, I think I've seen one family that had a true hepatitis infection, and that was in India. Um, but I have the feeling of giving the Hep B nosode when there is a collection of viruses that feel collected up in the liver, like there's like a liver congestion related to viral infection. And a really important note, like a really important thing to realize is that in homeopathy, I'm teaching you isopathy, where it's like, oh, you have this infection, give the remedy of that infection. But I'm also teaching you homeopathy, where it's like treats like. So I could be giving Borrelia nosode, and it's not treating Borrelia, but it's treating some unknown spirochete. I could give the Hep B nosode, and it's not treating hepatitis. I'm not saying you have hepatitis, but I'm saying you have a viral infection in your liver. So, does that make sense? So, this is somebody who did a Hep B vaccine clear, and she had postural hypotension and extreme exhaustion ever since she got the hepatitis vaccine. And she did the Hep B vaccine clear, and it just totally cleared out all of this exhaustion and postural hypotension and low blood sugar. Why the babies, newborns are vaccinated for this blows my mind. Our human potential for insanity is so great. Why? And to think that that's fine and it's safe, especially when this is about the liver. It's about an infection of the liver, and that their liver already is processing their blood stores and all of this stuff coming in, and the metals and the, just trying to stay alive, and you're giving a vaccine. It's absolute insanity. It's like really messed up. And then how many times do you get it? Like, how many times is the Hep B? It's like thrown in there like 3 or 5 times. Oh, God, you guys. We gotta change this. This is not good. Morbillinum is the nosode of measles. I think that we should be giving this regularly to prevent the epidemic of measles right now, since it's more out there. It can also be used to clear up the after effects of an actual infection. But I had one kid who had a very strong and bad reaction to the MMR vaccine. And I did the MMR vaccine clear, and it was powerful. And I decided, if you do a vaccine clear and it's a combination of infections, you can kind of look and think, okay, well, does this kid have like a particular standout? Like, it looks like the tetanus is really strong, or the pertussis is really strong, or the measles picture is really strong. And then you can just, like, so in that case, I gave morbillinum. This child had a really unique symptom where you take him, they lived in California, you take him to the beach, and he refused to go near the ocean. And that's in the Materia Medica. It was fear of the sea for morbillinum. And I was like, that's so interesting. And we gave the remedy, and it cleared that fear up. He actually started being at the ocean. So, the AIDS nosode, I've only given this like twice or 3 times before. But it's interesting, and I have seen it in the 1 or 2 cases I've seen it in, it's in like kids who have the really awful sexual Tourette's. Like, it's like, fuck you up the ass. that kind of Tourette's. It just like comes out. And it's like, it's really, and in the picture, in the history, there could be a lot of sexual violation. I don't see a ton of families like that, but in these cases, there was a lot of sexual violation happening. The actual picture is really interesting. There's the picture of the AIDS nosode is a desire for extravagance, desire for beauty, poor boundaries, empathetic, open. I doubt that you'll see it a lot, though. All right, so molluscum is one of those easy viruses that your body can kind of get out, but I just recently gave it to a pandas case
who had the warts, and he had the tick, and we did everything to get rid of the tick, and finally we just gave the molluscum nosode and it got rid of the tick, and you're like, thank goodness. Variolinum is the nosode from smallpox. I haven't hardly given it, and I'd like to probably trial it some more. It has an interesting picture with a lot of fear of death, aching in the legs. It's supposed to help with shingles. The HPV virus, we can start clearing that because of the vaccine damage that we're seeing, and we can talk about that. But that is a horrible story. We'll talk about that in our vaccination class. Melandrium, I just have 2 more remedies here. Melandrium is a bizarre remedy. It's from a disease called the grease of horse. I did not do a ton of research before teaching this to you, but I did give this to one case, and the Materia Medica says that basically this was an infection of horses similar to cowpox. So when cows get cowpox, horses get grease. And so it's like a viral infection, and it actually is used to prevent bad effects from vaccination back in the day. So I had a really good case of a kid who needed the horse remedy, lac equinum, and then had a bad reaction to MMR, and we used melandrium, and he had a really wonderful, strong reaction. He got physical symptoms. He broke out into a measles-like rash, like everything, just his whole body responded. His eye contact was better. He wasn't afraid to talk. It was kind of weird. It's like I've seen those weird, there are sometimes these strange connections. One of the other weird connections is I've given lacphalinum, and this is some of you in class, your kid has gotten cat milk, and then we've given mouse. The remedy from the mouse. I don't know why. Would that be a clear for smallpox vaccines, the horse grease one? Yeah, you could say that too. It's supposed to help with like measles, smallpox, and the effects of vaccination. I would say, for all of these remedies, they're kind of weird and odd. I'm explaining some of them to you, but you really want to kind of intuit it, because it is pretty hard to give them just based on the Materia Medica, which is limited, and it's kind of like the Materia Medica viruses all look somewhat similar. Clearly rabies is an attack of the brain, and shingles is an attack of the nerves, and molluscum is more like an attack of the skin. But so you have those differentiating pieces. This last case here, I just threw in there, but there is somebody from India who asked me about this case. The dengue fever is very common. It's a hemorrhagic fever where you can like literally get bruises and bleed out, and you get it from mosquitoes. And it was happening to this kid. All of a sudden he was crying, agitated, anxious, and we gave him the dengue nosode once a day for 3 days, and he had huge improvements from it. Gross motor skills, fine motor skills. Some of these infections, why do they occur in some countries and not others? Different countries have their different infections because we have our different susceptibilities. I kind of feel like this happens a lot in countries where there's, less iron. There's more like phosphorusy kids. It seems to like go after the phosphorusy, bleedy kids. So that's all the viruses. There are, like I said, maybe there's more that I didn't cover. I'm not going to talk about Ebola. There's rotavirus. You can do that clear. There's things like, there are some other remedies. But. Any questions? So I've been giving you guys these like lessons at the end. So what's the lesson of viruses that is problematic? So it's that I'm going, have to do, have to think, obsess, repeat. I have to meet the expectations of others, so I ignore the needs of my body. It's trying to meet everything out here instead of being centered in here. It's spinning out instead of like relaxing and coming in. It's information and sensory overload. You know, if your kid is virally like this, cut the information overload out. What virus is Bell's palsy, zinc for Bell's palsy? I believe Bell's palsy is usually like a herpes. Bell's palsy is an impact where the nerve actually paralyzes due to an infection. And it might not be just one infection, but it's usually, I think, kind of like a varicella or a herpes kind of infection. And there are, you know, I would give the Nosode for Bell's palsy, but I would also give a remedy like gelsemium, which is for paralysis of the nerves and this kind of, you know, it's kind of when like the face goes flat on one side. What else would be for that? Yeah, zinc. Look up gelsemium for Bell's palsy too. So the balanced thought to viruses is I slow down, I sit, I meditate, I ground, I relax. And so I can kind of sort through all the information coming through. I think this is why meditation or quiet or, you know, prayer, whatever the practice that turns you inward and turns the dial down and turns you inward and allows you to be contemplative, helps you clear out this excess. And it's very important in this day and age. All right, so I'm going to bring Beth on. Okay, where are you, Beth? Oh, I passed you. Okay. So
I unmuted myself.
Thank you. That pot over your head, I'm afraid it's going to fall on your head. That's my vibe.
Oh, no, it's actually, so you're seeing like, you're not seeing the correct dimensions. It's looking like I'm right under. I'm not.
Oh, okay. It's kind of cool. It looks like a hat. You look like a crazy lady with a hat on your head.
There's space.
Yeah.
The only thing is when I water it or when we water it, it kind of like falls on me and whatever.
It's pretty cool. So I want to talk to you. What is group healing? Like, well, how would you define a group healing? Like we've done group healings before, but what do you?
I mean, I guess we all really started when we went to Sedona in 2015. So you're bringing all these different energies together and finding a connection, a common connection. That usually it's not, you know, hopefully in these sort of things, it's not really your lower vibrational stuff. It's more of like, like your connection, like to move forward in life, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you would say it? Like if you're using the term healing, this isn't like, you know.
So group healing is essentially also just the free child formulas. It's like I'm trying to heal a group of people. And it's fine, to me, it's finding this shared energy field that we all have, that we all want to move past. We all want to move through. Like there's something that we all are dealing with and it's problematic and we feel into it together and we feel what that feeling of like, what is it that we want to move together through as a group and heal. And then we find basically is like, we'll feel into what that energy is and then we'll muscle test and create a formula for it, you know, I'll do a guided meditation.
Help too. So the energy I felt from this group is no different than my clients, no different than I was, you know, a few years ago with one child, but, you know, more than 10 years ago with another. It's sort of this fear of the future.
Uh-huh.
So maybe then it ties into then that viral thing. So to combat that fear, we go, do, read, research, add protocol, do this, do that, up, down, all around. Instead of, you know, so I'm not telling you what to do in your home, but just sitting back for a minute and really helping dissolve that fear. Yeah. So someone like Angelica, who doesn't have a special needs child like that, she may have a fear of the future for different reasons. So she's trying to search for her whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Yeah. Is this what you're feeling? You mean we
I
should
did.
work on as a group?
I mean, it's like what I counsel moms through, like day after day, and then they want me to intuit, Beth, will everything be okay? And I'm like, I can't tell you that. Like, none of us know. I don't know for myself.
Yeah.
But I want to make you feel better and more relaxed around what you're going through right now.
Yes. Okay. So cool. So our direction with this, let's say for everybody online right now, I want everybody, I'm going to guide you through meditation, but we're going to feel into where is our fear at for ourselves and our family, and what does it feel like, and what is it about? Like, is it the fear of the future, and is my kid going to get better? Is it like all these things coming in? And we'll just feel into it as a group. And then we will actually find energies to actually heal that together.
That fear. Yeah, because I think then sometimes when we have these huge fears, we subconsciously, and especially as you guys are all good people, you know, you all have nice energy, you're good moms, you're good people, but subconsciously you call in these like weird things and you're like, but why me? Like, and it really just is that fear that calls in.
It's
like
coming in from the subconscious
wacky
and all
sort of stuff. Yeah, because you're vibrating it.
Right.
Oh gosh, my car broke down again. There's another thing to be afraid of. I have no money for that. Or, oh, my husband lost his job, and like, you know, this, that, whatever, you know, whatever.
Right. So so let's just does that sound good for you guys, is to do a group healing around fears, our subconscious fears that draw in the continual battles.
Yes. And for you guys, if you like classical homeopathy, that's fine. You don't have to use this remedy, but what you can do is look at all the ingredients. So it's whether one that you came up with during this or one of the friends here. And you can use that single remedy for you or your child or your partner or whatever. You don't have to use this remedy. You can. It might be a lot of energy. You know, I like a lot of it, but not everyone does. Maybe you want one remedy from it or buy a couple and use them different times.
Right. Yeah. So this is fun. And so Beth and I have done this a couple of times, and we've made these like group healing formulas, and Beth has some of her own, and they're really cool. And a lot of people get pretty strong reactions, and the power of the group is pretty amazing because we can really intention together. What do we want to bring into the intention? We want to bring into the intention peacefulness, centeredness, trust in oneself, and one's guidance, one's inner guidance. So Beth is all ready. Her eyes are closed. I'm going to close my eyes too. And so let's all close our eyes together and just take a deep breath in and out. And what I'd like for you to do is, as you're breathing out, in and out, just connect with me, connect to the group class, connect to the vibe. And I want you to really come into your heart and your body and your breath. And I want you to imagine your worst possible fear, all the anxieties that you have, and just really feel into when you are fearful and when you are anxious and what that feels like in your body, like how that arises up in your heart, in your chest, in your nervous system, and maybe even in your throat. And then feel what it even just makes you want to do. And I want you to picture yourself really fearful, anxious, and nervous. And maybe something bad has happened, or something's gonna happen. And this scenario is playing out in one part of your brain constantly because it's so powerful. It's a palpable
fear. It's a story. And you take a deep breath in and out. And as you see and feel into that fear, I want you to step back from it as if you're watching it like a movie. And you breathe in and out and you're watching it. And you come center and you come to your heart. And you ask, please, my guidance, universe, God, angels, guides, guide me, help me, release me from this fear, this anxiety that's playing itself out, and guide me to a substance or something that will release, relieve, and reset and relinquish. Relinquish the power of this fear over my body, over my reality. I want to surrender it and let it go forever so that I can come into a place. And I want you to feel like you're coming into a place viscerally. A place that is more centered and more inward and more trusting. And I want you to imagine that a hand is reaching out to you and showing you something, or it's opening something up. And there's something from nature or the environment, or it's like a visual or a feeling that comes over you, a color, an object that brings you a sense of deep, centered peace, grounded wholeness, oneness. And when you see this color, this thing, or this object, it reminds you to get very quiet, very still, and very clear. And it reminds you of love. And you direct this state to that feeling of anxiety. And like magic, you dispel it. You erase it. You relinquish its power over you. You surrender it. And you take a deep breath in and out. And you know everything will be okay. Everything will be okay in the moment. And so everything will be okay in the future. In this moment, your trust in the divine is so absolute that nothing can rock your faith, your sense of peace. And all of that anxiety just feels silly, excessive. The mind spinning out of control. And coming inwards, feeling I am ruled and guided by this sense of peace and oneness within. I am always whole. And fear has no power over me. And my children, my family are whole. And they're allowed to go through their cycles of emotions, of fears and anxieties. And as they do, I don't get swept up. I stay centered, present, in the moment, clear, whole. I regard them with absolute love, not anxiety, not freaking out, not hypochondria, not running around, not trying to do, more, seek, research. I go in, I connect to my heart. I receive guidance. And I know exactly what to do. Just taking a deep breath in and out. Is there anything you want to add, Beth?
No.
All right. So when you guys open your eyes, I want you to write down if anything came up for you that the universe gave you to help heal your fear and anxiety. And if nothing came up, that's fine. You don't have to put anything. Tempesta. The storm isn't out there. Emerald. Nice. Did you see the color emerald, or was it like an actual emerald? Oak tree. Oh, awesome. Ah, yes. Oh, good. Oh, awesome.
Oh, seashell, cool.
Oh, wow. This is what you guys are pulling up was like my state yesterday. I literally was in this like round green conifer forest with these super swirling clouds that were literally swirls in the sky. It's so cool. And oak trees. I think I brought you to my state. Oh, that's cool.
Well, yeah, we're calling in what we each need to
Yeah.
continue. Maybe you felt good yesterday.
Okay. Ocean,
Ruby.
vast and calming, red heart crystal, ruby, orchid. So super cool. What I'd like to do is just touch on these. If there's any more, just go ahead and add them. So, I love this. So this is so real. You guys are so real. You're so tapped in. This isn't just playing around. This is real medicine. So, you know, emerald is very much about healing our frequencies, you know, clearing out all the EMF, like all of the crystal energies are about alignment and getting like really aligned and really solid, right? Fuya is about, we talked about that earlier, pushing out, you know, staying centered and strong in who we are. Forest greenstone. I'll just say that's emerald, but that's so crazy. You guys are so tapped in. Like, I feel like you just literally wrote out my weekend. Like, I was like, had this like crazy meditation, and then at the end of it, I walked up and it was like this like brown forest, and there was a bright green stone in the middle of the forest, and I pick it up and I'm like, cool, and I stuck it in my pocket. Yeah, the circular seashell with a swirl. I was thinking about that. Like literally the swirl was like, oh my goodness. It was like so present with me. Aquamarine, gold. Gold is about unity. It's totally about the sun, unity, one light, like one source, and alignment, inner alignment. God. Yeah, a gift. That can be great. I can put gift, energetic gift, walking down a path, vision of the ocean, red ruby, so more crystal energy. Orchid, I want to put that up. So orchid is a new group of homeopathic remedies, and it's so interesting. It's for the very environmentally sensitive children, kind of from another planet. And if you think of orchids, that they actually don't have much of a root system. They just have these kind of spindly roots, and they live kind of off the air and like the sun. And so they're supposed to be for like this, like, yeah, new type of child. And I'll send out information on that. So yeah,
I will make a remedy. I'll feel into if there's anything. I was kind of directing that, but you guys got it. So I'm gonna make a remedy, and what we'll call it is relinquishing the fears. And I'll put all of these remedies in it, and I'll write what each of them are for. And we'll put your intentions for some of you who don't have like an object. So, and then I'll put it up in the shop, and I'll try and get Ryan to discount it or something. But it'll come as a liquid. It generally is better in a liquid because we put so many remedies. And you could probably try it, when you're feeling fearful, take it and just get to that super calm, centered, and connected place. So thank you guys so much. That was really fun. Do you like that, Beth?
Oh, I love it. Yes. Yeah, because, it's just kind of anything, to help the moms. I have to tap in and feel like I don't even think that our kids feel that fear as much as we do.
Yeah.
That fear of the future, unless you have a recovered, almost neurotypical teenager, then they feel that heavy pressure of society. But there's this weird thing, like even really affected children don't feel that pressure the way we do. And I'm glad they don't. I am so glad they don't. They don't need to feel it. They feel enough. But
and you know what else? We were talking about the crystal children earlier today, and I was kind of bringing that up in this one case. And we have like 3 or 4 different crystals that showed up here, plus gold. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And really, it's for, I think, owning our crystalline self, owning our purity, like owning that we are crystals and we are shining light, and we can illuminate ourselves from the inside instead of toxifying ourselves from the outside. And
I think that's even some of the viral message, like in the connection to you're so concerned about computer and media and stuff coming in, like maybe just sitting back a little bit, not taking so many opinions from the outside and our 3,000 Facebook friends and groups.
Right.
And going within to our own child and being like, okay, I'm going to try this or this. It doesn't mean don't do anything for your child, because obviously that's not happening. But, like I'm going to take a calmer approach to some of this. And I'm going to take this and intuit and try it, whether it's homeopathy, whatever treatment or path or therapist you decide to take.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week, I think we're talking about pharmaceutical tautopathy clear, which is a really huge topic. I actually took some time off this week just to help kind of put that class together. And so hope to see you then. I'll post up the recording and I'll make the formula available. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm glad this was a good class. I didn't have hardly any time to mentally prepare for it. So, but I think my meditation was the mental preparations.
Bye, guys. Fun to see you
Beth,
all.
thank you so much for coming
You're
on.
welcome.
I really appreciate having your voice and energy and love.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, ladies.
Stop the recording.